Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Thank you for sparing your time to check out my thoughts on The Strangers Chapter 2, which I checked out last night at the time of this video. I wanted to compose my thoughts and express them here in this review, where I'm going to go in a little bit more detail than I normally do on a review, because I feel like there's a lot to talk about with The Strangers Chapter 2, so buckle up. Once again, we've got director Renny Harlin at their helm, and we've got Madelaine Petsch as the character of Maya. This follows on immediately from the end events of The Strangers Chapter 1, where Maya is in hospital, having survived the attack of the Strangers. When the Strangers find out that Maya is still alive, and yes, they show you who is behind the masks, they go on a quest to finally end what they started in killing Maya. I'll leave it there because for story-wise, there's not really much more to it than that. This feels like a cat and mouse game for the 96-minute-ish runtime that this is on for. Now, my stance on The Strangers is this. For anyone that doesn't know, they originally filmed this trilogy, and they announced this was going to be a trilogy. They filmed this in 3 months, and they were doing shots of the first movie during the day, and at night time they were doing shoots for the second movie. So it goes to show how hectic this production was. It goes to show that they had no real huge intentions or passion of creating something magical and memorable with this now franchise, but instead leaning more into the cash grab territory. So with that in mind, when I watched The Strangers Chapter 1 in 2024, original viewing out of the cinema, I was like, yeah, I'm not really a fan of this movie. It's not really great. Now, fast forward about a week before the time of this review, I rewatched Chapter 1 on Amazon Prime, and I found the movie to be okay at absolute best. Definitely middle of the road, but at that point, I just took the movie for what it was. I sat back, relaxed, and wanted to go in with a fresh mindset and fresh memories of going into Chapter 2. Now, fast forward to Chapter 2, my expectations was leaning more into the Halloween trilogy territory that we got in recent years from David Gordon Green, where you have a entry to start with where it's going to be sort of exciting, sort of like big, and a movie that is supposed to set the tone for the other two. The middle movie I knew was going to be filler to the point where we get to the ending with having a big finish at the end. So of course with The Strangers, that's the mindset I went into with Chapter 2, and it's probably why I don't hate the movie as much as everyone else does. But by no means am I saying to you guys, this is a great movie, because it's really not. However, with that in mind, when it comes to The Strangers Chapter 2, what I will say is this. They have more story as such to expand on this time around, because we're not now in the house any longer. The end of the first movie, Maya ends up in the hospital surviving the attack, but her partner Ryan doesn't. At first, I do like the first act of Strangers Chapter 2. The reason why is because Maya is stuck in the hospital. It is stupid how the Strangers find out that she's still alive. Again, they show you who they are in this movie. It's not really spoiler because it's shown in the trailer. So when that exposure is revealed, the first act of this is Maya in a hospital realizing that they're still going to come for her, and you've got this cat and mouse game in a hospital, which ultimately is a great setting because it gives you a feeling of seclusion, isolation. There's only so much you can do or go in a hospital to try survive these attacks and try to get out unscathed from these masked murderers and these masked psychos, right? So that element of Stranger Chapter 2 I think works okay. The issue is, as the movie starts to progress, this roller coaster takes you from one location to another, to another, to another, etc. And that's how the movie plays out for the 96-minute runtime. It's like one set piece after another set piece after another set piece, or another setting, another location. There's a few characters introduced to you that are purely introduced for convenience sake of prompting a vehicle to enter a certain scene in a certain act, or for a certain moment to happen to give our character Maya like an escape route. Now, don't get me wrong, I said this in chapter 1, and I'm going to say this again. I think Madelaine Petsch does a good job for what she is given. Now, by all means, the dialogue is awful. There's no dialogue that she's been given so far where I want to root for her, where I think, wow, she's an amazing final girl, or that they give some levity to her character for the audience to really latch onto and root for her to escape from these psychopaths. You don't get that with The Strangers Chapter 2 either. Her acting this time around is more physical, to the point where she's like screaming, she's crying, she's just got a face of terror essentially for 96 minutes, but also some moments of anxiety and the fearness that she is really having to helm in certain scenes. I think she actually balances that really well, and at least it's believable that she's scared and she is on the edge of this horrific event that's happened to her and her fiance Ryan from the first outing, and now it's doubled up in chapter 2 because she goes through the ringer in this movie. She's battered, she's bruised, she's bloodied, she has got nasty wounds. She generally goes through it all. But does that make for good storytelling? Not when you haven't got a solid plot at the helm, and also any dialogue that is thrown in isn't worth talking about. Now, there is one element where they have the sheriff that you do see from the first movie, and this time he's got a younger sheriff who's maybe like a protege or quite fairly new to the business. You get sort of an angle with those two in terms of their stance on the whole situation and why they aren't alerting further authorities with this case, but it does feel very slim pickings what you're given with those particular characters, because this movie doesn't want to give you all the answers. It wants to get you into the theaters to check out chapter 3, to potentially close the chapter on them, to give you some resolution as to, are they going to help Maya or are they not? The story arc I think that they're going to go for with those two characters is quite predictable. You're probably going to see where it's going to go. If they don't, I'll put my hands up. I will admit in chapter 3 that I got it wrong. But for right now, I do feel they're leaning into the story of where I think it's going to go without spoilers. Now, in terms of the strangers themselves, so in this time around, they do something the strangers haven't done before, because as far as you know and I know, they're strangers, hence the title. They're just random psychopaths who pick anyone, in this case, particularly anyone who comes to the town, eliminates them, and they're never seen again. This time around, they actually give the strangers a backstory. So you know the people who are behind the masks, you see face reveals, but in that, you also get a backstory about how they became this psychotic behavior that they emote. I don't think the backstory works because of a few reasons. Number one, it is generic. You've seen this backstory told in other movies and also done far better, to the point where it gives you emotions towards, for example, in this one, these killers, where you want to feel like, wow, they are sinister. You hate them. You want to see them get their comeuppance. Strangers Chapter 2 doesn't give you that, because the backstory that they give, I was like, right, well, these people are already psychopaths. It's not as if the backstory was made to, okay, they were, brought on the wrong path as an upbringing to now get them to the point where they're at. That isn't the case. It's just the fact of they are crazy kids from being kids, and that's leading them now being adults, which we already know from chapter 1 and chapter 2, the fact that they tried to kill Maya and Ryan for just being a couple who wanted to stop by this town and their car broke down. We already know that they're weird. We know that they're psychopaths. We know that they just kill for the sake of, as they say, because you were here. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but also the opening scroll and text to both of these movies state that in America, there is so many deaths a year that are chosen at random, which again emphasize the fact of why these people are doing what they're doing. We don't need a backstory to explain why they're doing what they're doing. So that just ultimately felt kind of redundant. I do think the cinematography throughout is pretty good. They are able to capture these multiple different locations in a well-adjusted settings with plenty of ample light so you can see exactly what's going on even in the dark. But then also in some daytime scenes, you do get some nice cinematography that looks a little bit crisp. So at least the movie is well captured. Unfortunately, towards the down pit of The Strangers Chapter 2 is when this movie ends. They do have a post-credit, which is a trailer for Chapter 3. Now, when they showed this trailer, it's about 20-30 seconds long. After it aired, I immediately shook my head. I was like, oh no. It's just not captivating. It's not a great trailer to make me invested to go to check that out. I generally had no feelings when it ended. Now, the audience reception around me, because if you're thinking, well, Mike, you're just picking on The Strangers, or, you know, this is your viewpoint. Well, it's not just my viewpoint, because when I walked out of this cinema, which bear in mind, I would say there was about 20-30 people in my show and not a huge screen, there was voices around me. So one group of 3 people said, it's slightly better than Chapter 1, but not great. So that was one group of people. Another group of a man and a woman, I think maybe a man and wife, I'm not like husband and wife, I'm not really too sure. As they were walking out in front of me, she says, I really hope this doesn't carry on to a Chapter 4. So already, for me, I know that the group of 3, one of them worked at the cinema. So they obviously are passionate of movies, and the couple, the husband and wife as such, they were just a casual moviegoer by the scenes of it, because she mentioned about a Chapter 4 when there's only going to be a trilogy. So there are 2 varying opinions, but also very similar ones to where you can gauge a reaction of people around you of how they felt, and are you in the minority or are you not? So for me, I didn't hate the movie. I don't think I was bored at any point. It is a roller coaster. It's relentless in the pace in terms of it's just one set piece after another. It never really slows down. There's always something going on to try to give you a cheap jump scare or a cheap thrill, which doesn't really work. Maybe if you're in the age bracket of 15 or below watching this movie, maybe you might get that. But for like adult and seasoned horror fans, this doesn't really do anything. So my overall score for The Strangers Chapter 2 is going to be a 2 out of 5. But have you seen it? Are you going to check it out? Let me know down below in the comment section so we can continue the discussion down there. And in the meantime, you can check out these videos right here if you haven't, including my review of The Strangers Chapter 1 originally. Till next time, guys, I'll see you later.